it was a time where not only was the pandemic, you know, we were really feeling the struggles of the pandemic, both as a family and also as an Asian American community, where you know politicians, many public figures kind of blamed the Asian American community for the struggles of COVID. That was also during the time of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests. And that's when I kind of had a personal reckoning with my own race.
Hello, and thank you for joining the Patient to Professional podcast. My name is Dr. Nick Despotidis, and I've had the privilege of examining thousands of children through the years. Today, I have with me actually a very young professional student, Zhou. Kyler is 19 years old, and when I examined him recently, he impressed me so much with his maturity at such a young age. So I invited him onto the podcast. Kyler, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Yeah, Dr. D, it's great to be here. It's really been an honor. Dr. D's been my doctor for the past 10, 11 years.
A
Wow,
long
it's
time.
been a
Your
long
age was
time.
since you
Yeah.
were in like third or fourth or fifth grade or so.
Yeah. It's been
So,
quite a ride.
Kyler, I want you to tell the audience, obviously, you're not a professional. We could call you maybe a professional student at this point. Tell us, where do you go to college? What year are you in? And what are you thinking of majoring in? Have you selected a major?
Yeah, of course. I'm a sophomore at Princeton University, and I just declared a major in public policy at the School of Public and International Affairs, and I'm going to be minoring in philosophy.
Okay. So, I've noticed a lot of students these days are doubling majoring. That's a trend that I've noticed. Like when I went to college, you majored in something and maybe minored. Is
Mhm.
double majoring becoming something in vogue or something that's required to get a good career going?
Um, I don't think so at all. Well, Princeton, for one, does not allow you to double major. So I have a major in public policy and a minor in philosophy. Although I know a few students at other schools that do have two majors, I think the vast majority of them still have a major and maybe a minor, not even necessarily a minor. It's definitely not a requirement in my mind.
And what is public policy? Let's say what areas of study attracted you to public policy? What courses are
Yeah,
you taking?
yeah. So public policy at Princeton is a very interdisciplinary course. It's you can really make of it like there's so many different paths you can take that students take in public policy. So for I personally am interested in technology policy, looking at how we can govern AI in the future, what policies we should put into place to regulate or not regulate AI companies and AI models. Other friends, I have some friends who are interested in healthcare policy, interested in US-China relations. You can really do a lot of things with this major. I was drawn to this major and public policy in general because I've since high school had a profound interest in politics. Specifically, I mean, this is kind of personal to me that I didn't see many Asian American representatives or politicians in the public eye. It
That's
just
true.
didn't happen. And when the COVID pandemic broke and a lot of politicians were attacking Asian American communities, that's when I realized how hurtful that was not to have an Asian American political representative. So that's when I first opened my eyes to politics, to public policy. These are things that are not traditionally discussed much in Asian American communities, but something I really took a profound interest in. And at Princeton, you know, public policy is allowing me to not only interact with politically minded, politically driven people, but also pursue different policy matters that I think are will be very, very important in the future of our country and the future of the world.
Wow, that's very, very, very deep. So tell me, what courses are you taking right now leading up to it? When I examined you just within a year, so you're finishing your sophomore year, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
You told me didn't select a major yet. You were
yeah,
thinking of philosophy, correct? Am I
yeah,
remembering?
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your thought process over the past 2 years. We're towards the end of your sophomore year. What shaped your thought process?
Yeah, of course. So I, well, currently I'm taking a philosophy course in metaphysics. I'm taking political theory, taking law and literature. So very humanities focused courses this semester. Um, and I've always had a deep interest in the humanities. Um, Perhaps even more than social sciences. Like if you classify political science as a social science or public policy, I think the humanities offer a very rich, it's a very rich um, art, I would say, that just really captivates me. And for a long time, I was thinking of majoring in philosophy. I mean, and to be honest, I'm still a philosophy major at heart. I would like to think of myself as. The only reason I chose to do public policy, or here we call SPIA, School for Public and International Affairs, is because um, my course path is allowing me to take enough philosophy majors courses such that I finish the requirements of a major. And public policy allows you just a different program. So um, it has a task force program which allows you to kind of work alongside the US government or a government, a client, and make policy. And my academic trajectory and like what I want to take in the future allows me to do both that SPIA program, that task force program, and take philosophy courses at the same time. So I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds. Um, while my major is technically public policy.
That sounds neat because if I read between the lines is you also want a career that maybe is not so narrow as philosophy, correct?
Yeah,
You want to study philosophy, but you also want to broaden your horizons, your options
yeah,
upon
yeah.
graduating.
Yeah, I think how I viewed this was kind of like a balance between what's practical, and in my mind, that's more
Right.
public policy. You're doing things on the ground, and what's more theoretical, such as philosophy. It's good to have in your mind. You develop a skill set that it's more theoretical that kind of allows you. It helps you when you do more practical matters such as policy.
And so tell me about your average week as a
Yeah,
sophomore at Princeton University.
yeah.
Is it all coursework, learning? Give me a little bit average week for the student thinking about applying to an elite or Ivy League college like Princeton.
Yeah, so schoolwork definitely dominates the during the week. So Monday, Thursday, you're in classes for most of the day, and then after class, you're doing homework. But then Fridays through Sunday is when you really get to. I mean, you're still doing work. I take up maybe half of your day, maybe a little less, but that's when you get to spend time with your friends. So every weekend, this semester I've been doing something very, very different. Um, every this semester I started so every Friday I don't have any classes, and so I go to the Garden State Youth Correctional Facility and I tutor incarcerated youth, and so that takes around 12 to 3 o'clock, and I'm tutoring science, math, grammar, reading. It kind of changes by the day, and it's a really rewarding um, program that I took on this semester. And then at night times you'll play soccer, you can go to New York sometimes. It's I think a lot of students in high school think that college is going to be super stressful. It's another 4 years of stress. I think, compared to high school, you get much more freedom. It's so much more freedom. What's hard is less so the schoolwork, but more so balancing your time with the many other interests that students inevitably take on as they mature in their life.
Wow. So, do you exercise during the week? Do you have time to exercise? Give us an
Oh
idea of
yeah.
what time you wake up in the morning, what
Yeah.
time you go to sleep at night. I know as a patient, I would yell at you a little bit because you would go to sleep late and you wear these nighttime contacts that require you to
Hmm.
sleep. So, be honest with us. What's your
Yeah.
average day that you wake up and go to sleep?
Yeah, I this semester I've been doing my best, sleeping before midnight. Maybe, I'll be realistic, like, between midnight and 1 a.m. That's
Okay.
when I typically sleep. And then wake up at 8:30, That's okay, 8:30, sometimes 9, sometimes 9.
Okay.
Um, that's when I start my day. And then after class, I like to work out kind of right after my last class. Um, it just gets me in the rhythm of things, and then it kind of keeps. So I work out 4 to 5 times a week. Um, it keeps me in a rhythm of things. I guess even though one might say I'm sacrificing an hour of my day to work out, it keeps me on, it keeps you just, on track of things, such that like if the days I don't work out, it kind of like throws me
Right.
off balance.
That's interesting.
It lets me, know that I have to keep going. And then my rest days are the weekends. That's when I just, I just, or not even now, I have soccer games on Sundays. I have practices, twice a week for club soccer. Um, I guess you definitely have a lot of time to work out, and there's a big
So you
community.
work out regularly after your last class. Is that in a gym, like a school gym they have?
Yeah,
And
yeah, in
then
the
in
school
addition
gym.
to that, you have some soccer practice twice a week.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
when is
that's
that? Usually in
Tuesday.
the afternoon or in the midday?
Oh, that's pretty late at night, so 9 to 11 p.m.
Wow. Where's that? In the gym,
Tuesdays.
obviously.
Oh no, it's in a field. So it'll. I mean, right now it's really cold, but
Right.
I'm planning on going tonight. Yeah,
Okay. That's interesting. It's cool out as we speak. So, and
yeah,
then on Sunday, you have a game or something like that, a
yeah.
scrimmage, something to that
Sunday
effect.
morning, Sunday morning, 8 a.m. It's pretty early wake up, but it's always a fun game.
So let's go to high school a little bit because you gave, I think, a very valuable tidbit there. You said college is more about time management, if I heard you
Yeah,
correctly, than it
yeah,
is about the course load. Is that correct?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So in
Yeah,
high school, many parents, at least, I don't know about students, as parents, we all hope that our kids go to Ivy League. I guess deep down, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. But how did you prepare? Did you always want to go to Princeton? Give us a little bit about the sacrifice I would think you would have to make to apply to a school like Princeton.
yeah. So high school. I so just for context, I went to high school. My COVID broke out in my second semester of freshman year, so I, like everyone else in my class, had a pretty atypical high school experience,
Wow.
given that half, maybe just a little bit less of my high school experience was virtual. Um, and in many ways, it kind of shook our class a little bit.
Sure.
Our experiences are very different than most other classes are. Um, I think I took that time to really. I mean, it was isolated. You were stuck in a computer screen, and coming into high school, I was definitely a mess. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know you know how to go up. My time management skills were absolutely terrible. I just
So you're
yeah,
talking about ninth grade, probably 2019, correct? Before
2019.
COVID hit. So
Yeah,
midway through your freshman year, you're confused, your time management is
yeah,
stinky. And to
yeah,
make matters worse, all of a sudden, I would think around March,
yeah.
April,
March.
you go all virtual.
Yeah, so right after spring break, it was like, whoa. I remember like the days before spring break, it was like, oh, it's just gonna be a few days, and then no one expected it to be like a whole 2 years. So
That's
I
right.
mean that, I guess like that was a more in the first few months, no one really knew what to do. In terms of school, it was not a problem, but I realized then that I had regardless of whether or not school was going to continue virtually or go back to in time, I had to you know kind of get my stuff together. Um, you know, understand how to do school, and what I mean by that is that I think a lot of times people people view school a few different ways. I think in back then I viewed school as kind of a chore, right? It's something
Sure.
that I had to do,
Right.
not that I wanted to do. Um, And then it's like, you go to class and then you leave once you're done with your homework. You're like, oh, okay, I can actually live my life. I kind of realized that, it's not all like that. Um, that's when I started to develop an interest in politics and kind of more like reading and writing. And so in those classes, I would not only just go to class and then do your homework, but also kind of read more into the readings, right? Get like intimately attached with the stuff in school that I resonated most with. And that's not all courses, right? I was never good at chemistry. Chemistry was always my weak spot. But the courses I found, once I kind of changed my mindset, changing school from a chore to something that could, open my mind to different things, or to let my mind let me explore different things that could be useful or are I just find interesting. That's when I really took the most out of my high school experience. So, I would, for example, read The Great Gatsby, which is one of my favorite books now, but also understand, you even look at movie adaptations, see where the changes uh, are, and like how you can see The Great Gatsby in today. I remember writing an essay about that, and kind of changing that mindset made school more like an opportunity to grow than just a chore.
So it's
Um,
quite fascinating. So you're now, I'm assuming in 10th grade, because like you said, at the end of ninth grade, you're probably waiting for COVID to be done and it's
yeah,
not done. And you just got through the ninth grade. I'm assuming,
yeah,
what did you do between the summer of your freshman year and sophomore year? Is that when things started to turn? Is it the what was on TV, the politics, the controversy that was
yeah,
going on? Like, how did you mature? I would think you would regress, but if I understand you correctly, you actually matured to say school is more than just a job. It's something that I need to get something out of it.
yeah. Um, so the summer between my freshman and sophomore year was definitely one of my most formative summers. It was a time where not only was the pandemic, you know, we were really feeling the struggles of the pandemic, both as a family and also as an Asian American community where, you know, politicians, many public figures kind of blamed the Asian American community for the struggles of COVID. That was also during the time of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests. And that's when I kind of had a personal reckoning with my own race, something that I had been aware of because it was a difference, right, between me and other people in my school, particularly my soccer team in South Jersey. And I was, still cooped up at home. I took a small black moleskin notebook and would just write, just wrote and wrote, and then just about my experiences, my reactions to news as they were unfolding related to this racial reckoning that the whole country was facing. And those notes in my notebook turned into op-eds that I would publish and send out to newspapers. Um, and most of them, to be honest, were not published, but some of them made it to the Star Ledger. Some of them made it to the Princeton Packet, and that feeling of like that, it was a very rewarding feeling that I felt
Of
that kind of,
adversity, documenting it, expressing yourself,
yeah,
getting rejected more than accepted, obviously, but
yeah,
yet
yeah.
finally getting your word in print.
Exactly. And it was also that once I got the words on the notebook, on the page, it felt like a moments of clarity with my own relationship with my race, and also just, with myself. And so that's what I did in the summer between um, my freshman and sophomore year. And I have to thank my teachers who were very, very supportive. They were going through similar struggles, not just in COVID, but also they were understanding the racial reckoning in the United States alongside me, and they supported me immensely. So I would continue to write then. I started my own magazine around young Asian Americans experiencing and understanding and taking pride in their identity, that would kind of continue throughout high school. It was a very formative experience that I had.
So you obviously have tremendous passion. So instead of regressing during this virtual learning, it seemed like it catapulted you into this passion where it may have not if all this controversy and chaos was going on in our country at that point. There was so much
Yeah,
uncertainty, and you found certainty in how you felt about the situation, and you put it into
yeah.
words.
It was kind of an experience of I, looking back, I think I needed that moment, a moment of isolation. I don't know if I would have found it had, you know, as striking as it may be, had we not been, forced into that. And it kind of, and on one hand, deeply, deeply, you know, tragic that COVID would happen and impact the lives of many, but also, it was kind of a quiet and standstill moment that allowed, you know, let me to regroup myself and kind of understand the struggles I saw around me and kind of, you know, I think that was very transformative in my personal in my life. In my life.
This is really good in that you are revealing your passion without meaning to. This is you, and this is what I think it takes to reach the level of academic success that you've reached in such a short time. Did you have to take AP courses? Now, when did you integrate back into live learning? Was it at the
Yeah,
halfway through your sophomore year?
yeah, yeah.
So,
So it was um I started going back to physical, in-person school a few days a week in my second semester of sophomore year, and that was, I think you would go in person 3 to 4 times, maybe sometimes
right,
a little
right.
less into school. And that was the first time in literally a year that I had gone back to school. It was still a surreal. It was kind of a really surreal experience. You'd still have these glass barriers that divided.
Oh, yeah.
You have staggered lunch times so that it would only be a few students at a time eating lunch.
Yep.
It was really crazy. You know, obviously you had the masks, you had a lot of procedures that were put into place. So it was still, while it was in-person school, it was still like, you understood that it was
Isolated.
significantly different. And um, but yeah, and then I actually took another break um for my school in New Jersey, and I did a study away program in my junior year. And that was in Washington, D.C. It was the School for Ethics and Global Leadership. Um, and so that was in person, and it was kind of a school format that it was school during the day, but Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays would be dedicated. There would be periods dedicated to specifically ethics and global leadership training. And you would, yeah.
Is this
So you
something
would,
you signed up for? What kind of program is this? I'm not familiar with it.
oh yeah. So this is a semester program that I applied to my sophomore year, and I did in my junior fall. And so it was a program in DC. You what made it different from, regular school is that you would have case studies on ethics and leadership that were currently going on right now. So, for example, we learned about issues like we met with Arctic Council officials, we met with, you know, leading scholars and figures in the gun control movement. So both gun rights activists and gun control activists kind of got both sides. Um, we talked about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We even learned about, the aftermath of 9/11 and the Rwandan genocide. And you kind of had I had a rare opportunity to like kind of meet with um, these leading figures who kind of walked through these um, these events with us, just high school juniors, and that was definitely, that was amazing. Um,
So you're
and
only about 16 at the time, correct?
I was 16. I was 16 years old,
And
and
you're facing these very difficult social circumstances that we all wrestle with, either side.
yeah, yeah,
And then you came back midway through your junior year.
yeah. And then midway through junior year, I had no interruptions. That was real school again, up until my graduation. Yeah,
Okay. Did you have to
yeah,
take AP courses?
yeah,
Is that to get ready? And
yeah.
were you conscious of your academic GPA? Because it sounds to me you're so passionate about causes. Doesn't matter which one, you're very passionate. Were you also cognizant that I have to do well to go to a university that I strive for? Were you thinking of Princeton in your sophomore year?
Yeah. To be honest, no, I
Okay.
didn't really have. I always knew kind of. I guess college was impending. It's something that is going to shape my life. But in sophomore year, I didn't really have many thoughts about, what school I wanted to go to. Not to mention, like specifically Princeton. I kind of understood that closer to senior year. So that's when I did my research about college. I think this is the biggest advice I would give to high school students looking to apply for college is that it's not about the name, it's about the fit. And I chose Princeton very much so, it provided the best fit for me, especially my interest in public policy. Um, I did research about the academic program, and I guess it did help that I'm very close to Princeton. I live about 25 minutes away, but doing research about the fit, how the campus life, what the campus life is like, if you could imagine yourself in that campus life, that's the most important part. Um, in terms of, GPA, I don't, so our school didn't really measure GPA. I guess I was always cognizant that, I can't I didn't want to slack off any of my courses. APs were not a big thing in my high school. I know some of my friends here have taken like 8, 9 APs. Um, I took I took four. I took I took four. I took four APs, but I've been told that there's been general APs don't really matter, and especially nowadays, where even standardized testing scores are they're mattering less and less. They don't. It's not that they don't matter at all. AP still matter a little bit. Standardized testing scores still matter, but there seems to be a a decreasing a trend as to like, yeah, they matter, but it's not about the number of APs you take anymore. It's about, you know there's many more interesting things that you can convey yourself to admissions officers. Um, I would say like focus on your essays, your college essays, constructing a story that is genuine to yourself. Focus on developing those passions of yours instead of like a number of 3.9 or these numbers don't matter to you. You'll forget about it in just a year. These APs don't matter as well. It's more about constructing intentionally the person you are, making sure that's genuine to what you like and what you enjoy. And that's college admissions officers will see that most and it'll resonate with them the most, far more than a number.
So when you said focus, you got cut out. Focus on what you enjoy or focus your passion. What was the word you used initially? Focus on
I mean, focus on yourself, like focus on,
focus.
and focusing on yourself, your passions, and then writing about that in your essays are far more important than, caring about a specific number, a GPA that college admissions officers will see right through if you don't have a story behind it. If you're just, you know, cranking out the A's with with nothing else behind your grades, you have no passion, you're not really important. College admissions officers really resonate with like strong stories show, demonstrating that you care about something in the world that's not just your grades at school. That's the most that's it's far more powerful than anything you can really do
I
about your
agree with
grades.
you. Again, I'm just an optometrist. I don't know, but I do know the applicants are getting more homogeneous. GPAs
Yeah,
seem to be higher than I've ever heard in my life. SAT scores seem to be so much higher than when I went to college many decades ago. The application, the resumes, if you will, if I could use that term, seem very homogeneous. I volunteered. I do this, I do that. If I read you correctly, you're saying think deep down of what you really are passionate or happy about.
yeah,
Tell your story.
yes, exactly,
But it's
exactly.
very hard to do at 17,
Yeah,
18. I don't have a story. The story is
yeah.
I want to get through school. I want to, maybe get my parents off my back. I don't have a story, and I'm very stressed because Kyler, everybody knows what they want to do, but I don't know what I want to do. And, I want to make everybody happy, but I really, so it seemed to me with you writing in that binder, you forced
Yeah,
yourself to put your thoughts from your brain into paper, and that seemed to
yeah, yeah,
crystallize your thoughts, no?
yeah, yeah, exactly. My mind, I mean, that notebook kind of like I have it on my desk always. I have it in a drawer in case I want to refer back to it. But that's really when I kind of my mind was a mess, back then. Not
Sure.
just not just because of COVID, but also, social pressures of high school, which is, a significant part of your high school experience, was a mess too. Writing them all down on paper was not just like relieving, but also, deeply deeply transformative. Um, I think it definitely made me more mature. It definitely made, I guess, made me think more, made me more intentional in what I wanted to do, my actions, and kind of allowed me to think about what I care about as a person. And that's you're 14 through 18, right?
Yeah.
This, I'm still figuring out what exactly it is that I want to do. I still have those questions right now. I want to be clear that you don't need to know what, what college you want to go to, what career you want to do, what you want to do after high school or college. That's not something you need to do, especially at a young age like that. I mean, what I would suggest is kind of, first of all, be open to exploring, uh, be open to exploring things, and I guess don't do things because they might look good on a resume. There's no such thing as, looking good on a resume. If, for example, you're just, the president of Science Olympiad and have no interest in Science Olympiad, and you really, really are passionately, involved in literature, for example, right? But you sacrifice a lot of your time for science study. That's not something you want to do. It's not going to look good on your resume. In fact, it'll probably look more better if you spend more time dedicated to the things you like, literature, humanities, right? That's You don't want to do things just because they might look good on a college resume. You want to do things for yourself, because otherwise it's just a waste of your time. That's the simple truth of it. And I guess when I tell this to a lot of high school students right now, they say, okay, all right, whatever. Like, you don't, they kind of take it loosely. You only realize the amount of time you've kind of wasted, or more so, the amount of time you should have dedicated to the things you enjoyed once you're in college and you're looking back and you're realizing, okay, I shouldn't have taken on, Science Olympiad when I really was, because it looked good on my resume, just when I was really interested in books, or vice versa.
Right. I think it's easier said than done. I'm a parent. I want my kid to do the science Olympiad. I have a formula that I've learned from my colleagues, and I think it's easy enough to give my kids the formula. But what you're saying, I think, is accurate. Again, this is just our opinion, but it's much healthier if you give your child space to really find what pushes their buttons. And it may take more time than parents like, as opposed to forcing them to find this outline that may have worked for Nick Despotidis or Kyler Joe, but it may not work for them. And like you
Yeah.
said, you're trying to find something that you're really interested in and exhibit that. And it comes with time also. You can't force it. Did you play sports during high school? I know it was COVID. In your senior year, were you playing soccer or anything like that?
So that was actually the biggest regret. No, I played a season of soccer my freshman year, got injured, and then because of COVID and then study away, I didn't get to play until my senior year, and I just decided not to, because I thought it would be too much of my time. I regret that so much to this day, but
Okay.
I didn't. I played. No, I ran track in the spring, but much less of a commitment than soccer. But yeah.
Well, Kyler, listen, I wrote in my notes that I wanted to interview you, and then I forgot, to be honest with you. The patient to professional podcast tries to interview children who are now adults like yourself, but are in careers. Yet I see now as we're talking why I wanted to speak with you. You're so transparent. You're you're so passionate at such a young age. I really was not passionate about much of anything when I was 19 years old, other than maybe, the wrong things. But yet it shows students and parents and myself really what's needed to really get into a college of your choice and to also excel at that college. Clearly, I hope there'll be one day I interview you when you're in the world, because you're going to make changes. Anybody listening to this says, "Wow, this young man is going to go places," and it's not by your academic, it's by your conviction that I want to make a difference. I stand for something, and I'm going to do my best to make my dent in the world. That's clearly what you're saying. And I
Yeah. I mean,
I commend
thank
you
you very
for it.
much, Dr. G. Thank you very much, Dr. G.
And
It's yeah, and it's amazing. It's amazing to speak with you, and I'm really really honored to have this opportunity.
well, I'm honored to have you. And I really do think you helped a lot of parents and a lot of students to say, I know it's hard to do, but maybe sit back and not think about everybody on social media or everybody in your class or all your friends and your parents' friends. Think about what you want. You don't have to know what you want. You don't have to know the college or the major you're saying, but try to look deep down and maybe put it on paper. That's the other thing I learned on you. I also like to put my thoughts on paper. And
Yeah,
it's hard to do. It really is, because it's gibberish in the beginning, because your thoughts are, and then the more you write, the more concrete your thoughts become.
yeah, exactly. And I want to emphasize that there's no secret sauce. There's no
There's no secret
special
sauce.
formula into college, and there's no special sort formula for life.
No,
I'm discovering that now. It's really it's about your journey. And to the parents out there, I would say, there's no point in forcing your kids to do X activity, Y activity because they might look good in college. It's about supporting you know, your child in their own development, not just for college, but just in their life, in their personal life. And that's probably the most valuable thing that I was very fortunate to have from my parents.
you were. And I'm a parent, and I can tell you it's easier said than done. We all love our children unconditionally. We do the best we can, but we do try to find a formula, and there is no
Yeah.
formula. You're 100% right. So, Kyler, thank you so much for joining us. I assure you we've all benefited from your insight, and you have so much more to go. I can't wait to speak to you at your next exam and in a few years, hopefully. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. D.
And
It's
to
a
everyone
pleasure.
out there, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Until next time, have a great day.